Hey guys, I'm Uchiha. This story is all about what if Naruto was raised by the Inyuzuka family? What misadventures could stem from such an upbringing? Before we proceed with the story, please like and subscribe to this channel if you liked the video and don't forget to check the description for the other works of the author if you liked the story. Let's start. Chapter 32, Rematch, Uchiha vs Inyuzuka. Hayate looked at the Chunin contenders in front of him. Third match of the Chunin exam finals, Shino Aburame vs Sabaku no Kankuro. Are you ready? Affirmative, monotoned Shino. I'm not, said Kankuro. I forfeit. All eyes turned to the Suna puppet master. But the fight hasn't even started yet, Hayate argued. I want out of it, Kankuro repeated. Are you sure? Hayate prodded. Absolutely positive, Kankuro replied, walking back to his seat. The audience was less than thrilled to see a fight cancelled. A chorus of boos began to rise from the crowd. Behind his sunglasses, Shino appeared impassive, except for a light buzzing in his perimeter that betrayed his emotions. Hayate was stunned. Well, looks like this match goes to Shino Aburame. Man, you sure are lucky, muttered Shikamaru as soon as Shino got back to his seat. You didn't even get to do anything, and you still won. I believe your logic is flawed, said Shino. A default win is an empty gain. It is better to lose honorably rather than to win without a bit of work. Troublesome philosophy, grumbled Shikamaru. Naruto, Inyuzuka and Sasuke Uchiha, please proceed to the arena, called Hayate. Naruto looked for Sasuke in the contestants' box, but the Uchiha was nowhere in sight. He peered over into the ring. No Sasuke either. Maybe he decided to chicken out, he thought as he made his way to the arena. Shikamaru, noting the Uchiha's absence, muttered a lucky, expecting his blonde teammate to win by default as well, earning him a disapproving look from Shino. Hayate looked at Naruto before switching off to what was to be Sasuke's side of the field, to discover that the Uchiha was not there. Where's Uchiha? Asked Hayate. Naruto shrugged. Beats me. He wasn't in the contestants' box either. Suddenly, the spiky-haired Chunin from the first part of the Chunin exams ran towards Hayate and whispered something into his ear. Hayate nodded a few times before the Chunin went back to wherever he came from. We have a problem, announced Hayate. Sasuke Uchiha and Kakashi Hatake have not yet arrived, and if they do not show up within 10 minutes, Sasuke Uchiha will lose by way of forfeit. Whispers rose from the crowd as they waited for Sasuke and the always tardy Kakashi to arrive. Kurenai angrily clenched her fists. If the Kopinin did not arrive soon, he would soon find out why Kurenai was called Devil Eyes. As the minutes ticked by, the crowd was getting restless. We want to fight. We want to fight. Some of the rowdier members chanted. Fearing a riot, the Chunin proctors were already rushing in for crowd control. At the very last minute, Sasuke and Kakashi arrived in a puff of smoke, the crowd going wild at the moment of their appearance. About time, said Hayate, looking at his standard issue pocket watch. You only had 60 seconds before you lost by forfeit. Sorry we're late, Kakashi said, his visible eye crinkling into the all too familiar eye smile. You see, there was this dash. Save your excuses for after the exams, sensei, cuz I am psyched. Said Naruto, getting into the Inyuzuka taijutsu stance. Aomaru leapt in front of his partner, his red fur bristling in anticipation. You're going down, Inyuzuka, Sasuke growled, activating his one-tomo Sharingan. Hayate gave the two rivals a nervous glance before coughing thrice. Okay, fourth match of the Chunin exam finals, Naruto Inyuzuka vs Sasuke Uchiha, begin. The audience erupted into wild cheers as Naruto and Sasuke charged towards each other. Go Naruto! You can do it! Yelled Kiba, waving a foam finger. Kick his ass, and kick it hard. A full-fledged taijutsu fight had erupted down below. Sasuke was coming in with a jab towards Naruto, while the blonde parried. Naruto retaliated with a spin kick, to which Sasuke anticipated with his Sharingan and dodged. The cycle continued for a few minutes, with neither boy landing a hit. Aomaru, use Koinokuraguru. Naruto commanded. Woof. The little puppy jumped into the air and rolled into a ball before tacking straight towards Sasuke. However, the Uchiha was able to catch the puppy and savagely flung him into a nearby wall. Aomeru! Naruto shouted, fearing for the well-being of his partner. ARF! ARF! Aomeru leapt back into the scene, relatively unharmed. Naruto breathed out a sigh of relief, his form relaxing, when a sudden pain erupted on his side and he was thrown onto his back a few feet back. He growled in pain. Sasuke Uchiha had just drawn first blood. Tisk. You just forgot the first shinobi rule, Yujire Tonkeke, Sasuke sneered. Never lower your guard in a fight. He closed into the fallen Inyuzuka, determined to end the fight quickly, when a blast of wind chakra knocked him back. You really should take your own advice, Uchiha, scoffed Naruto, picking himself up. Ever heard of the proverb, practice what you preach? He tossed a soldier pill to Aomeru, the dog turning blue upon swallowing the pill. Jujin Bunshin no Jutsu. Aomeru disappeared in a cloud of smoke to be replaced by a Naruto clone. Shikyu no Jutsu. Both Naruto and Aomeru took a more feral form and charged towards Sasuke with renewed speed and vigor. However, even with the double team, Sasuke was still at an advantage. The Sharingan, even with its one-tomo form, allowed the Uchiha to trace the Inyuzuka duo's movements, thus he was able to evade the incoming strikes with fair ease. Sasuke dodged an angry swipe from Naruto and jumped back just in time to avoid being hit by a sweep kick from Aomeru. Futon, Tsuga. Channeling his wind chakra, Naruto went into drill form and dove in for the kill. Sasuke managed to avoid the full force of the wind-enhanced Tsuga, but was clipped by the ensuing backdraft. Tsume was impressed. According to what she had heard, both Naruto and Kiba had been injecting small amounts of their wind chakra into their taijutsu, and she knew that Naruto had been reading the chakra manipulation scrolls he had received from Jiraiya, but she never expected that her adopted son would take it to the point of modifying the Tsuga. At least not this soon. Sasuke winced as he clutched at the small gash produced by the backdraft. It had only been a glancing blow, but it still hurt a lot. He had to do something quickly if he wanted to take the Inyuzuka down. He had two options: use the ninjutsu Kakashi had taught him or use the genjutsu he had learned under Kurenai. He scowled at the thought of using the genjutsu. While the illusions were believable, they took too much time and chakra. To make things worse for the Uchiha, the Inyuzukas were a strong-willed bunch. If they were known to find to the end, what chance did mere genjutsu have against the Inyuzuka willpower? He knew what he had to do. Raiden, Raisenka. Sasuke launched several lightning balls towards Aomeru. Acting quickly, Naruto activated his Kaze no Yoroi and jumped in front of the Raisenka. The winds surrounding the blonde violently reacted to the lightning and caused an explosion. The blonde was thrown back along with Aomeru and collided into the wall behind them. Katon, Karyuin Dan. A fiery dragon aimed for Naruto and Aomeru with the intention of incinerating them both, but Naruto had other plans. Futon, Senpyu. A tornado of sorts appeared and sucked in the dragon, nullifying it. Futon, Rankyudan. A great gust of wind was concentrated towards the Uchiha. But Sasuke countered with a Reikyu. The collision of jutsu resulted in another backlash, and this time, both contestants were thrown back. Naruto gave a pained grimace as he hauled himself out of the rubble. He was beginning to get a feeling that using his wind jutsu against Sasuke's lightning jutsu was a very bad idea. The resulting backlashes were just too violent. He had to use an alternative mode of counterattack. The Kaze Kage turned to Sarutobi. Have you ever seen such an intense match, Lord Hokage? I would say not, Lord Kaze Kage, Sarutobi replied. I have participated all three shinobi wars, and even the hottest part of the battle was never this extreme. This new generation has greatly improved, hasn't it? Yes, it has, said the Kaze Kage. And one day, they will all be in my sway. Raiden, Raidama. Naruto growled as the lightning bullet came towards him. He had to act fast. Suddenly, an idea popped into his head. Unsheathing his Kodachi, he readied himself for the impact. Kenjutsu, Reflex. Channeling non-elemental chakra into the Kodachi, Naruto caught the Raidama and launched it back Sasuke. Although Sasuke managed to dodge the returning missile, the glare from the lightning bullet was strong enough to temporarily blind him. With the Uchiha off guard, Naruto and Orochimaru took this as the opportunity to take him down. Jujin Bunshin Renden. Naruto gave the Uchiha a vicious uppercut kick. Nuu. Orochimaru, in clone form, jumped and grabbed the Uchiha's legs and flung him towards the ground. Zoo. Upon landing, Orochimaru used his enhanced speed and caught Sasuke in a donkey kick. Ka. Naruto finished off the combo with a punch to Sasuke's solar plexus. It's time to finish this. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. 3 shadow clones appeared. Dance of the flower petals. Using the blunt edge of his Kodachi, Naruto and the clones gracefully tore through the dazed Uchiha, effectively taking him down. By the time it was over, Sasuke was nothing more than a crumpled heap on the stadium floor. And that finishes that, said Naruto, dusting off his gloved hands. Nice work, Orochimaru. Woof. Barked Orochimaru, who had reverted back to his original form. Sasuke angrily pulled himself off the ground. He was losing badly. And to the same person he had been trying to outdo since the academy. At the rate he was going, he was never defeat him. It was now or never. Sasuke would have to use his secret weapon. I will never give up, he shouted, lunging towards Naruto, making several hand signs as he did. You can say that again, Naruto sarcastically retorted, steadying his Kodachi to block, and possibly, counter-attack. You will pay for your transgressions, Inyuzuka, Sasuke shouted. Chidori. A rough blade of lightning crackled from the Uchiha's forearm, making a noise that sounded like the chirping of 1,000 birds. At ringside, Kakashi's visible eye widened. Sasuke knew the Chidori? But the Kappinen had never taught it to him despite the Uchiha's demands that Kakashi should teach him the higher-level lightning jutsu. He was also sure that the last time he used the Chidori was at Nami when. No, it couldn't be. He wouldn't. But it was right there in plain sight. Sasuke was using the Chidori. The Kappinen had been copied off. Naruto, get out of the way, Kakashi hollered. The Chidori is too powerful to counter. He'll just send the lightning right through you. You'll have to move out of the way, now. Sasuke thrust the Chidori towards Naruto with the intent to kill. You're finished, Inyuzuka. I can't look, exclaimed Kiba, covering his eyes. Everyone turned to look away, expecting for the blonde Inyuzuka to be zapped by the Chidori, whereas Tsume struggled to get up and intervene, only to be greeted by a miraculous sight below. A grimacing Naruto was using his Kodachi to block off Sasuke's Chidori. Both boys pushed, trying to overwhelm the other, sparks flying from the impact, but the Inyuzuka and Uchiha held strong, neither one of them relenting. I won't be taken that easy, Teme, Naruto yelled. Sasuke grit his teeth and pushed harder. Why don't you just give up? Not even in your dreams, pretty boy, retorted the blonde. That's enough, boomed Hayate, standing up. I'm calling the match. Sasuke Uchiha is disqualified for attempting an assassination jutsu. This match goes to Naruto Inyuzuka. A medley of cheers and jeers came from the audience. Some were glad the Inyuzuka won. Some were furious that the Uchiha lost. Others still simply cheered because they were entertained by the intensity of the battle. Sasuke was about to protest, but he was immediately silenced when he saw Kakashi and Kurenai approaching him. The look on their faces told him that he was in a world of trouble and had a lot of explaining to do. Submitting himself to the situation, Sasuke sullenly allowed the two Jonin to lead him away. Naruto jumped as a hand came to his shoulder. You okay there, kid? Asked Hayate. Yeah, I'm fine. Hayate coughed and looked at him quizzically. You gave the entire stadium quite a scare there. You were practically looking at death in the face. As far as I know, only a handful of people were known to have countered the Chidori and live. Don't ever do that again. Naruto weakly nodded, remembering the fight between Zabuza and Kakashi at Nami. Thanks. I'll keep that in mind. And that's it for this morning, folks, announced Hayate. The Chunin exam finals will resume later at 2 o'clock this afternoon. For the time being, please enjoy the following intermission numbers. Have a nice day. Chapter 33, Grudge Match. Here's your miso ramen, sir. Thank you. Naruto chirped as he paid the man and settled himself to eat beside Shikamaru and Shino. For a while, the three boys said nothing as they ate their lunch, the silence only disrupted by Naruto noisily polishing off the salty ambrosia that was called miso ramen, and Aomaru chomping down on his special dog food. Naruto Inyuzuka. Before said blonde knew what hit him, a fist smashed right onto his skull. Clutching at the growing lump, he looked up to see his mother scowling at him. Behind her were Kiba, Hana, their dogs, Sakura, and the Inyuzuka's family friends, namely, the Nara, Yamanaka, Akimichi, and Aburame families. Are you crazy? Tsume rebuked. Were you trying to get yourself killed? That was a stupid stunt you pulled. Suddenly, she pulled the blonde into a crushing hug. I'm just so glad you're okay. Mom. Naruto wheezed. Choking. Me. Air. I need air. So I guess you're facing that Suna kid now, huh? Remarked Tsume, once she released her son from her death grip. Naruto mumbled, nodding furiously. Tough, man, said Kiba, pulling Naruto into a headlock. Naruto paled a little, remembering the Sabaku's ruthlessness. Kiba. Stop scaring your brother. Tsume scolded. I'm not scaring him, protested Kiba. I'm just stating facts. You should listen to your mother, Kiba, Kurenai stated dryly as she entered the room with Kakashi. Where's Sasuke? Asked Shikamaru, noting that the Uchiha was not anywhere around the two jonin. He'll be spending some time out with some friends for the moment, Kakashi replied rather cheerfully. Upon seeing Team 7's leader, Tsume's eyes caught an angry glint that had never been seen before, not even by her own family. Kakashi Hatake. She ground out. The Ika fan looked up to see the Inyuzuka matriarch stalking up to him. Hey Lady Tsume, what's up? He greeted rather nervously. What's up? Growled Tsume. I'll tell you what's up. Your temporary charge nearly zapped the crap out of my son, and you ask me what's up? Give me one good reason why I haven't sent you to a world of hurt just yet. My team needs me. Kakashi replied, sheepishly scratching the back of his head. At the table, Naruto and Shikamaru rolled their eyes, to which Kakashi mouthed the words, please help me here. The crack of Tsume's knuckles brought Kakashi's attention back to her. Wrong answer. Now normally, Kakashi Hatake was a brave and fearless man, but there were a few things that did scare him and one of them was currently standing in front of him. Ah! Don't hurt me! He cried, squinting his visible eye shut. When no fists of fury came flying towards him, he cracked open his eye to see Tsume flashing him an evil grin, and everyone else snickering at him. What's so funny? He asked, confused. This, quipped Tsume, holding up Kakashi's Ika novel. She tossed it into the huddle of Kuromaru, Akamaru, Aomaru, and the Haimaru triplets. Go for it, boys. Almost instantly, the dogs dove into the novel and ripped it into shreds. As Kakashi watched the Inyuzuka nindogs decimate his book, it felt like a little part of him had just died. My baby! Cried the copynin, dropping to his knees. Beside him, Kurenai reminded herself to use the scene as a genjutsu if Kakashi ever got on her bad side. A tiger-masked Umbu crouched among the huddle. Everyone clear with the orders. Yeah. No one attacks until the signal's given, muttered a pig-masked Umbu. Are you sure about Midarashi's story? I mean, she's been out of it lately. She could have just been seeing things. No way, said Uma. The Nara kid claimed he saw and heard it too. It couldn't have been a hallucination. Invasion or no invasion, we'd have to stay on our toes and remain incognito, whispered Usagi. With the Chunin exams going on, I wouldn't be surprised if some nut decided to launch an attack on any of those dignitaries in the audience. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, announced Hayate. I hope you've had a good lunch during the intermission. Now that you're all refreshed, here's the event that we've all been waiting for. The final match of the Chunin exam finals, Naruto Inyuzuka of Konoha vs Sabaku no Gaara of Suna. Applause rose from the excited spectators as the final contenders flashed on the screen. In the contestants' box, Naruto and Shikamaru noticed that Kankuro and Temari were nowhere to be seen. "Wish me luck, guys," said Naruto, standing up. "Luck," yawned Shikamaru. Beside him, Shino gave a silent thumbs up. As he made his way to the steps, Naruto was accosted by Gaara. Orochimaru's fur bristled at the sight of the redhead. "Glad to see you made it, Inyuzuka. Mother is greatly pleased." Naruto flashed the Sunan in a feral grin. "Wouldn't have it any other way, Sabaku. Wouldn't have it any other way." Moments later, the two finalists were facing each other on the arena. Between them, Hayate could feel the tension rolling off the two boys. "Everyone ready?" he asked. Both the Sabaku and the Inuzuka nodded. Hayate pulled up his hand. "All right then. Last match of the Chunin exam finals, Naruto Inyuzuka vs Sabaku no Gaara." The katana-wielding Takujo quickly swung his hand down. "Begin." "This is a most exciting match, isn't it, Lord Kazekage?" commented Sarutobi, as he lit his pipe. "Why yes it is, Lord Hokage," replied the Kazekage, watching the match down below. "This fight is even more hot-blooded than the one between Uchiha and Inyuzuka. What are your prospects on this?" Sarutobi gave a thoughtful puff. "What I know about Inyuzuka is that he has great potential in ninjutsu and kenjutsu. He also has excellent points in team effort, as he does have a canine partner, like many in his clan. As for your son, I must say, while he seems lacking in close combat, he makes it up through his sanjutsu and sheer ruthlessness, and his defense is rather exemplary. To tell you the truth, I'm not really sure about the outcome myself, but I have a feeling that Gaara may have met his match." The Kazekage smirked. "That's what you think, you old fool?" As soon as the match started, Gaara's sand instantly dove towards the Inyuzuka and his nin dog. Fortunately, Naruto was not one to take things sitting down and become a literal sandman. Acting quickly, he unleashed a Daitapa which cut the sand tendrils and headed straight for Gaara. However, a wall of sand blocked out the remaining air blast that would have otherwise hit the Sunanin. Shuriken Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. One shuriken became 5 as they sailed towards the Sabaku, but once again, the attack was thwarted by the sand wall. Naruto grit his teeth in frustration. With the sand hovering about him, Gaara was near impenetrable. Even with the ninjutsu he had learned from Jiraiya, Kakashi, and Asuma, landing a direct hit on the Sabaku boy was risky business. From what he had observed, while the sand was mainly used as a defensive measure, it could also be used to attack, as in the cases of Hinata and the Aimnin. Gaara was dangerous, no question about it, but hell would have to freeze over before Naruto would even think of backing down. The redhead had hurt his Hinata Hime, it was only fair that Naruto would return the favor in her name. If only there was a way to detract and disable the sand. Suddenly, Naruto had one of his light bulb moments. Once again, he tossed a soldier pill to Orochimaru to initiate the Jujin Bunshin no Jutsu. Once Orochimaru was in clone form, both Naruto and the clone went into Shikyu mode. "What's he doing?" yelled Kiba. If Hinata couldn't get through with her Gyuken, what makes him think that the Inyuzuka-style taijutsu will take down the sand rat? Under his hood, Akamaru appeared agitated. "Kiba, keep calm," Kurenai scolded. "I can't be calm," Kiba howled. "Naruto's going to get murdered out there, I know it." "Kiba, have some faith," said Kakashi. "Knowing Naruto, he probably has something up his sleeve. Catch me if you can, you psycho sandman." Naruto jeered, as he nimbly dodged the sand with his Shikyu-enhanced speed. On the opposite side, Orochimaru used the Inyuzuka agility to evade the incoming tendrils. Gaara's sand raced after the blonde and his clone, but in his zeal, he had not noticed that Naruto and Orochimaru had changed directions and were now heading for each other. In the competitor's box, Shikamaru smirked at his friend's ingenuity. "Take out the pawns first, then the king. Nice play." Naruto grinned as he closed in on Orochimaru, the waves of sand not far behind them. "Just a little bit more. Now Orochimaru." At the command, both boy and clone made a sharp turn, and the sand waves crashed into each other, disrupting the chakra that held them together. The sand broke apart and fell to the ground. Without his sand to defend him, Gaara was left open for attack. Quickly unsheathing the Kodachi, Naruto and Aomaru jumped in for their signature move. Futon, Gatsuaga. The double drills violently slammed into the redhead. As he was hit, Gaara felt a new sensation overcome him. It felt unpleasant and it raged through him like fire. Not long after, there was a slight wetness and a trickle. Sabaku no Gaara was bleeding. At the sight of blood, Gaara went ballistic. He clutched his head and started screaming maniacally. "I'm bleeding. Mother, I'm bleeding. Suck it up, mama's boy," yelled Naruto, as he slammed the reverse edge of his Kodachi towards the Sabaku, hoping to end the match. But just as the cold metal was a hair's breadth away from the redhead, a geyser of sand erupted and deflected it. Naruto and Aomaru jumped back in time to see the sand returning to Gaara, and crawling up his body. As the sand inched over Gaara, it began to merge with his body, forming a tail, and clawed arms. However, the most alarming aspect of the phenomenon was the twisted face of a tanuki, covering the right half of his face. As Gaara transformed into the warped monster that was now standing in the arena, a silver-haired Umbu in the stadium's nosebleed zone whispered something into his comlink. Moments later, a hail of white feathers floated down into the stadium, followed by a series of explosions. Chapter 34, Sound of War. As Sasuke was being led to the interrogation building, there was a sudden rumble as a giant, three-headed snake crashed through the wall, and slithered through town, crushing everything in its path. The shockwaves shook the perimeter, making Sasuke stumble. As he got up, he found his Jonin guards dead on the ground, and standing behind them with bloody kunai, was none other than Team Kabuto. Instinctively, he got into his stance and activated his Sharingan, but immediately found himself restrained by Misumi. "What do you want, Kabuto?" asked the Uchiha. Kabuto simply smiled. Now, Sasuke-kun, is that any way to greet a friend?" "What do you want?" Sasuke repeated. "I actually have a proposition for you," Kabuto replied, his face growing serious. "You want power, right?" Sasuke nodded. "We can give it to you," Kabuto offered. Sasuke raised an eyebrow. "What's the catch?" "No catch," Kabuto replied. "All you have to do is just come to us when you feel ready." "You're not Konohanin, are you?" Sasuke asked, eyeing the dead Jonin. "No, I'm not," said Kabuto. "I owe my allegiance to a man more powerful than the Hokage himself. I'm sure you've heard of Orochimaru of the Densetsu no Sunin." "Orochimaru?" Sasuke inquired. "Isn't he the one who tried to kill me in the Forest of Death?" "Actually, that was a test," explained Kabuto, smiling cheerily. "And you passed. You are now one of those whom he has chosen to be his apprentice." A twisted smile etched across the Uchiha's features. A Sunin's apprentice? He could get used to the idea. "I'll think about it." Sarutobi found himself in a headlock with a kunai at his throat in the arms of the Kazekage as he was dragged to a nearby rooftop. Beside him, the Kazekage's Umbu bodyguards shed their cloaks to reveal themselves as Otonin. The four Otonin followed their master and each one settled themselves on a corner of the roof and made hand seals, erecting a barrier, effectively trapping both Sarutobi and the Kazekage. The Hokage's Umbu bodyguards quickly gave chase but to no avail. Now, most people would panic in such a situation, but Sarutobi was not most people, and even in enemy hands, he was still composed. "Well, I must say, this is quite a muddle of things," he commented. "Isn't that right, Orochimaru?" The Kazekage was caught by the remark and his grip laxed, allowing the sand aim to slip through. How? How did you see through my ruse?" "A couple of birds told me," Sarutobi replied, shedding his robes to reveal his battle gear underneath. "And for the fact that I was your sensei. Just because I'm old doesn't mean that I've forgotten about quirks and qualities of my best students." Orochimaru gave a sinister smirk. "Is that so, sensei? Then I suppose you haven't forgotten this. Edo Tensei." Sarutobi's eyes widened in horror as 3 coffins rose, each one labeled with the kanji for first, 2, and 4. As the feathers floated into the stadium, the Konoha shinobi took it into their course to counterstrike. After hearing Enko's report and its confirmation from Shikamaru, the Hokage's office had issued an orange alert within Konoha. All around the stadium, shouts of Kai could be heard as some of the shinobi members of the audience dispelled the genjutsu, while others battled the otonin who had entered as civilians. The other ninja readied to help herd the civilians and daimyos, conscious and unconscious, towards the safety bunkers. A clawed arm swiped at Naruto and Aomaru. "You have spilled my blood!" screamed the Tanuki boy thing. "And now, I will spill yours." Business was as usual in the Konoha Ninja Academy when the sirens and the distant sounds of war disrupted the daily classes that were being conducted. Hushed whispers rose as the children crowded around the windows to see mushroom clouds and what seemed like a giant three-headed snake in the distance. In the halls, panicked footsteps could be heard. Iruka's heart froze in his chest. He had heard about the warnings about a possible invasion, but he did not think it would be too soon. As a Konoha shinobi, it was his duty to protect his homeland, but priority one would have to be the safety of his charges. "Come on kids," he called as calmly as he could muster. "Let's get you out of here. I want you to follow Kiyota-sensei's group towards the safety bunkers." "What about you, Iruka-sensei?" asked one of the girls. "I have some unfinished business to attend to," answered the scarred teacher. He gave them a reassuring smile. "Don't worry. I'll catch up. Now go." "But I wanna stay and help," protested Kano Amaru. "Me too," sniffed Udon. "Ditto," chimmered Mogi. Iruka smiled at the honorable grandchildren. "If you want to help me, you'll follow my orders and go with Kiyota-sensei. Don't worry about me. I'll be fine." As the children filed out to join the other evacuees, the Kano Amaru Corps turned around to give their teacher one more wistful look. Iruka simply motioned them to leave. Reluctantly, the three children left the room. "Be careful, sensei," Kano Amaru whispered as he left. With the children gone, Iruka went to his locker and opened it. Inside were a bunch of papers, some school supplies, his raincoat, and a medium-sized lacquer trunk. Opening the trunk, Iruka pulled out a nodoki, a standard-issue umbu uniform, and a dragon mask. The scarred Chunin slipped on the mask. "Looks like Ryu's back." Hinata was peacefully sleeping when a loud commotion outside woke her up. She found her Neji and Hanabi at her side, but there was no sign of Hayashi. "What's going on?" she asked. "Where's father?" "We're currently under attack," explained Neji. "Uncle is rallying up the clan to fight off the invaders." Hinata's heart jumped to her throat. "Attack? By who?" "Oto and Suna, so I've heard," Neji replied. "They broke through the walls and started attacking. The local umbu are now sending strike teams to repel the invaders. The civilians, the children, and the elderly are being evacuated into the safety bunkers. Shouldn't we have left with them?" Hinata inquired, wondering why the hospital had not evacuated its patients to a safer location. "Actually, we're a lot safer here," said Neji. "The combined forces of umbu and medics surrounding the hospital are more than enough to ward off the invaders." "What about the stadium? All those people? And Kakashi-sensei? And our friends? And Naruto-kun?" Hinata asked worriedly. Hanabi gave her sister a comforting hug, and Neji looked apologetic. "I don't know what's become of them, but all we can do is to pray for the best." The coffins labeled 1st and 2 opened to reveal the first 2 Hokages of Konoha. It was really them. The brothers Senju Hashirama and Tobirama, back from the grave and looking very much worse for wear. Sarutobi had used the Shuriken Kagebunshin no Jutsu to nail the Yondame's coffin shut. However, Orochimaru managed to catch the other Shuriken before they could do the same to the 2 other coffins. "Ah! Hiruzen," croaked the Nidame. "It's been a long time, hasn't it?" "Tobirama-sensei," whispered Sarutobi. "Look at you now," rasped out the Shodai. "Lord Hashirama." Orochimaru smirked as he plunged a tagged kunai to the backs of the deceased Hokages. "I'm afraid old folks' time is over." Like a phoenix rising from the ashes, the 2 Hokages began to regenerate their wounds and dents, disappearing. But as they did so, they immediately fell into Orochimaru's sway. The Snake Sunin pointed a finger at the professor. "Finish him." "Doing good there, Hana, Deidara grunted as his clay ant took out half a dozen otonin. "Still breathing, Day," Hana replied as she and one of the Himuru triplets swept through a group of Sunanin. Watch out! Incoming! Warned Izumo Kamizuki, the bandana-ed Chunin from the first part of the exams. Everyone, scatter! Commanded Katetsu Hagane, the spiky-haired tough guy with a bandaged nose. The shinobi in the area narrowly avoided being crushed as the giant snake slithered through the battleground. An unlucky few did not survive the mayhem. Shit. Katetsu swore. That guy's huge. I don't think there's anything in our arsenal that might take it down. You might not, but I do, said Deidara, stuffing clay into his hand-mouths. Boys, say hello to C3. Chapter 35, Counter-Strike. In the forests outside Konoha, several clones of a blonde boy and a red-furred puppy scattered through the trees as a red-haired tanuki boy, a brunette with a painted face, and a blonde girl with a giant fan gave chase. Hayate had instructed Naruto to lure Gaara to a less populated area to minimize casualties. The plan was to lose the redhead in the thick forest and for Naruto to report back immediately. However, Naruto did not expect Kankuro and Temari to join in the chase. As he fled the stadium with Gaara on his heels, the two remaining Sabaku siblings decided to give chase as well. Using the Kage Bunshin, he dispatched the clones, hoping to shake the Sabaku siblings off his trail. Dodging a stream of sand, Naruto and Aomaru made a sharp turn right and another turn left, hoping to lose Gaara through the dense foliage. However, luck was not on their side as they soon found themselves face to face with Kankuro and Temari. Their misfortune intensified when a tree crashed behind them, signifying that Gaara had caught up. Son of a Kiba, Shino, Shikamaru, and Tenten leapt through the branches as they followed Akamaru. Seeing that Naruto was taking too long to come back, Hayate had ordered the Jonin senseis to send some of their genin to back up and retrieve the blonde. Sakura, Lee, and Ino stayed behind to aid in the evacuation while the senseis and older shinobi fought against the invaders in the stadium. Suddenly, a piercing wail cut through the air, drawing the retrieval team's attention. "Oh man, this is bad," said Kiba. "Why?" asked Tenten. "Naruto's in big trouble," Kiba translated. "The cry we heard was Aomaru's distress call. From what I heard, he and Aomaru are currently engaged against all three of the Sabaku siblings. He's freaking outnumbered." "He's not just outnumbered," said Shikamaru. "He's also outmatched. How troublesome." "What about his Kage Bunshin?" Tenten supplied. "He could have just made a small army to stop them." "He could have done that," Shikamaru replied. "But you'd have to remember that he has fought 2 consecutive fights. Even with his chakra capacity, he should be starting to tire out by now. Not to mention that the Sabaku siblings specialize in long-range and indirect combat. The clones would be dispelled before they could even reach them." "It would be best if we hurry," said Shino. "If we stay here any longer, there won't be any Naruto to back up and retrieve." "Katsu." At the command, the giant clay bird that Deidara spewed out of his hands exploded as it came in contact with the snake. The other Chunin cheered as the snake bellowed in pain, its form cloaked by the blanket of smoke. However, the jubilant cheers stopped as the snake reared its head once more, hissing angrily, though the blast had greatly weakened it. "Booyah!" A giant toad with a pair of ninjato strapped to its back landed on the snake, dispelling it. Perched on its head was none other than the Sun Jiraiya himself. "The cavalry has arrived," the toad sage boasted, performing a strange victory dance, much to the chagrin of the Konoha shinobi. This kept on for a bit until he got serious. "Which one of you punks is Deidara?" said Ninja raised his hand in reply. Jiraiya hauled him onto the toad. "Come with me. I need your help with a little demolition project." Sarutobi grit his teeth as the Senja brothers tag-teamed at him. Behind them, Orochimaru cackled ominously. Using Inma in staff form, the old Hokage parried off the water jutsu the Nidaime launched at him. A sapling sprang out of the rooftop, intending to knock off his balance, but Sarutobi still held strong. As the Hokage fight raged on, Sarutobi discovered to his horror that nothing he did could keep the resurrected men down. The damages from each attack only disappeared and the attacks only fueled their rage. All in all, the whole experience was like a bad horror flick with the living dead and everything, except for the fact that it was all too real, and the zombies had no apparent weakness. Outside the barrier, Sarutobi's Umbu guards could only watch helplessly as they watched their Hokage battle Konoha's founding fathers. They were supposed to be the elite of the shinobi corps, but now they could not even protect their leader. Suddenly, there was a shout of Katsu, followed by a blast. Almost immediately the building crumbled to the ground, and along with it, the barrier and Orochimaru's triumphant grin. With the barrier gone, the Umbu leapt into dispatch of Orochimaru and his subordinates. Chaos reigned the streets of Konoha as Lee, Ino, and Sakura escorted the small group of civilians towards the bunkers. They had already been attacked by a patrol group wherein Sakura used her genjutsu and Lee used his taijutsu to fight them off while Ino guarded the civilians. Fortunately, Lee and Sakura were able to defeat the enemy, and the group took off once more. Just as the escort team was about to turn, they were ambushed once more, this time, by a mixed contingent of Suna and Otonin. Sorely outnumbered, there was nothing to do but to flee, but as they turned around, they found themselves blocked off by another contingent. Katon, Karyuin Dan no Jutsu. A stream of fire took the shape of a dragon and incinerated the enemy. Looking for their mysterious savior, Sakura, Lee, and Ino turned to see none other than Sasuke Uchiha himself. "You're helping us?" Ino asked incredulously. "Don't delude yourself, Yamanaka," said the raven. "I just needed something to vent on after the fiasco at the stadium." "What are you really trying to pull, Uchiha?" asked Sakura, who had lost her trust and respect of Sasuke after seeing him steal someone else's jutsu and try to kill her friend with it. "Nothing," replied the Uchiha. "Now come with me if you want to live." Heh. Hope this is enough to redeem myself after the Chidori incident. With these three as witnesses, I'll have no problem getting back to those fools' good graces. Back in the stadium, Kakashi, Kurenai, Asuma, Guy, Hayate, Anko, and a few other Konohanin clashed against the invaders under the command of a curtain-faced Tsunajonin named Baki. While a good number of the Otonin only ranked around Chunin to Takujo level, they still outnumbered the Konohanin, and the defenders soon found themselves hard-pressed. Suton, Suiryuadon. Mokyuton, Jubaku Isu. Dance of the Autumn Leaves. Agonized screams were heard as the enemy was swept by a giant water dragon, strangled by sprouting trees, and ripped through by several shadow clones of a katana-wielding Umbu. A three-man Umbu team landed on the ringside barrier. Its members consisted of a brown-haired male in a horse mask, a purple-haired female in a tiger mask, and its leader a pony-tailed brunette in a dragon mask. "Looks like the reinforcements have arrived," Asuma cheered. "You're a tad bit tardy," remarked Kakashi as he stabbed an intercepting Tsunajonin. "That's a surprise coming from you, senpai," teased Uma. "We would have come sooner, but you know the circumstances," quipped Tora. "Save the small talk for later," snapped Ryu, unsheathing his Notaki. "We still have a homeland to defend." Like everywhere else in Konoha, the clan districts also had their share of the violence and carnage as their residents fought off the invading forces. In the Hyuga compound, there was no main house or branch house as all clan members rallied under Hayashi to defend their home. The mothers, children, infirmed, and clan elders had been escorted to the bunkers, while all able clan members gave all they had to protect Konoha and the Hyuga name. In the Inyuzuka compound, Tsume, Shida, his children, and 12 other Inyuzuka clan members fought tooth and nail as they blocked off the invaders. Despite being blind, Shida Inyuzuka was still able to take down his opponents through his enhanced nose and with the help of his nindog, Kiro Amaru. His children, in Kanbihenge form, decimated the enemy via Oakami-Utsu, Trans, Wolf River, and the other members were using the clan jutsus to keep them from breaking further into the residential area. An Inyuzuka man and his nindog had already been killed, but still, the defense continued. In the Nara, Akimichi, Yamanaka, and Aburame compounds, the fight raged on as the invaders streamed from various parts of the besieged village. However, unlike in the other locations, casualties were relatively low as the defenders specialized in trapping and capture rather than dealing mortal injuries. The captives would later be hauled off to the torture and interrogation to be questioned by Ibiki. Orochimaru was beyond himself with rage. His plan was falling apart just as it started. His barrier had been destroyed by a gender-confused freak of nature with a chest mouth, and his elite Oto 4 were currently clashing against Sarutobi's Umbu bodyguards. Nearby, Sarutobi battled on with his predecessors, still very much alive and well. In his fury, he unleashed a fire jutsu at the clay bird only to have a toad swallow it. Suddenly, he felt a hard punch to his stomach, and as he staggered to the rubble-strewn ground, a shadow loomed over him. "Hey Temme," called the shadow. "Your beef is with me." Naruto had never been happier when he saw the backup/retrieval team arrive. Now the playing fields had been leveled. Kiba and Shikamaru took on Temari, while Shino and Tenten fought against Kankuro. Kankuro and his puppet Karasu were a formidable team. Despite his boorish behavior, it was evident that the boy was a master at chakra control and a mechanical genius. The older Sabaku twin easily maneuvered Karasu and launched an array of projectile weapons towards Tenten and Shino. Fortunately, before it could hit the bun-haired girl or the stoic Aburame, Tenten had used the Shuriken Kagebunshin no Jutsu to counter the incoming missiles. In coordination with his partner, Shino released his bugs to eat through the chakra strings that connected Karasu to Kankuro. Tsuga. The spinning winds from Kiba's attack nullified the air blast from Temari, while Shikamaru closed in and tried to attack with his newly learned Senei Jashu in conjunction with his Kagemafu. With them, Akamaru in clone form also did his share as he showered the Wind Mistress with a barrage of kicks and punches. Gaara's sand arm swiped at Naruto and Aomaru, and once again, they jumped to avoid it. Naruto managed to avoid the assault, but Aomaru was not so lucky. He was caught by the other sand arm and pinned to a tree, the sand slowly constricting around him. The puppy gave a pained yelp as he struggled to escape. "Lay off my partner!" the blonde screamed, drawing his Kodachi. "He never did anything to you." "Oh, but he has," Inyuzuka rasped the half-tanuki. "He was there when you hurt me and angered mother. For that, he will pay with his blood." "I said lay off." Tsuga. Naruto spun right into Gaara as hard as he could, followed by the blonde unleashing a flurry of the Inyuzuka-style taijutsu onto the redhead. But with every hit, Gaara only kept his grip on Aomaru and a maniacal grin began to sprout on his twisted features. "That's it, Inyuzuka. Keep going. Prove to me of my existence." As Gaara spoke, the sand tightened more around Aomaru, earning another howl from the puppy as he squirmed a bit more before losing consciousness. The sounds of death have never been so sweet. Aomaru. Red chakra flared around the blonde and blue eyes bled into crimson. "You want death, Sabaku? Fine, I'll give you death. Yours, that is." Chapter 36, Frustration. Any fight between the other Sabaku siblings and the retrieval team ceased immediately as Naruto's chakra spiked and gained an otherworldly aura. A tail made of red chakra flared out from behind him. "Is that Naruto?" asked Tenten. "What is he?" marveled Kankuro. "Whatever it is, it sure reminds me of Gaara's Shukaku," muttered Temari as she watched the two Jinhyuriki beat the living jelly out of each other. A sickening crack was heard as Naruto's fist came into contact with Gaara's nose. The Shukaku vessel reeled momentarily from the hit before retaliating with a sweep of his tail, pitching Naruto into a nearby tree. Another crack was heard as Naruto slammed into the tree. Kiba winced. "Oh, that's gotta hurt." Naruto gave a frustrated growl as he pulled himself up. Fighting by himself was a very alien sensation to him. Ever since Aomaru had been presented to him as his partner, there had not been a fight where he did not go tag team. But what about when your partner is injured? He can't possibly help you there. What are you going to do then? Jiraiya's words rang through his head, and epiphany lit through Naruto's eyes. How could he have been so stupid? A backup partner in case worst comes to worse. While Naruto did not have Aomaru to aid him in battle, he had the next best thing. A substitute partner. And he just knew who. He bit his thumb and slammed it to the ground. "Kuchi Yasei no Jutsu. Hey boss, whoa. You look kinda different." Gamakaki squinted at Naruto's form. "Did you do something with your hair? Can we talk about this some other time?" Naruto replied. "We have bigger fish to fry." He pointed at Gaara. "Namely that. You want to help you fight against that?" Gamakaki squeaked. Naruto grimly nodded in response. The young toad puffed his throat in annoyance and a bit of fear. "Fine. But you owe me 5 boxes of Pocky for this." Not long after Deidara used his clay to detonate the building Sarutobi was on, a new Otonin arrived to relieve Orochimaru and his lackeys. The new arrival was a pale, lanky boy with white hair about a couple of years younger than Deidara. Upon seeing the new arrival, Deidara immediately went after the boy who, strangely enough, fled. The blonde instantaneously followed him through Konoha's rooftops. Katsu. The bug bombs he launched at the enemy exploded and his periphery was obscured by a cloud of smoke. Did I get him? Pondered the blonde. It better not be like the one with the snake. I really should try coming up with a smokeless formula for my next batch. As Deidara peered down, several bullets shot past him, one of which grazed him on the cheek. As the smoke cleared, he found that the albino-looking boy had formed an armor made entirely of bone. No way, thought Deidara. Is he for real? But alas, it was as real could get. Deidara Yamanaka was fighting a member of the feared Kagaya clan. Sarutobi steeled himself from another attack as the Senju brothers assailed him once more with a barrage of kicks and punches, supplemented with injections of Mokuton and Sutenjutsus. Nearby, Jiraiya faced Orochimaru in a Kuchi Yase ninjutsu standoff, while the Umbu clashed against the Oto 4. Hiruzen, I'm sorry, whispered the Nidame as he backhanded Sarutobi into a wall. Despite the apology, both Tobirama Senju and his brother showed no signs of stopping. While their minds may have been remorseful, the bodies just kept on dealing out the damage. Sarutobi grit his teeth as he spat out a glob of bloody saliva. As far as jutsu went, he knew there was no way in stopping an Edo Tensei summon except. A feeling of dread shot through Sarutobi as he used his staff to form a cage and created a pair of Kage Bunshin outside the cage. Must you really do it? Asked Inma, in his spirit form. Is there really no other way? Sarutobi cracked a sad smile as he flashed the hand signs. There is no other way, my friend. It must be done, and I'm sorry that it had to end this way. As he came to the last hand sign, he screamed out, Shiki Fuin. At the command, the Shinigami appeared and took hold of Sarutobi's soul in one hand while the other held a massive dagger. Sarutobi's Kage Bunshin had quickly reached into the resurrected Senjus and had begun tugging their souls out of their bodies. As the souls were slowly extracted, the Senju brothers' reanimated bodies began to disintegrate. Before them, the Shinigami greedily licked his dagger. Goodbye Hiruzen, whispered the Shode. And thank you for setting us free, finished the Nidame. As their souls left the reanimated bodies and the empty vessels fell to the ground in the lifeless forms of Doso Kinyuta and Zakuabumi. No. Orochimaru drew out his Kusanagi and lunged towards his former sensei. Jiraiya tried to follow, but a small army of snakes and a wall of fire kept him boxed in and away from his former teammate and teacher. You've ruined my plans for the last time. It's time to pay for your transgressions, you meddling old fool. Orochimaru screamed, stabbing Sarutobi in the stomach. Sarutobi gasped in pain and coughed out a bit more blood, but there was a knowing twinkle in his eyes and a serene expression on his wizened face. You know. You're right, Orochimaru. I should pay for my transgressions, Sarutobi wheezed. And letting you escape years ago was one of them. Summoning his remaining strength, the aged Hokage reached out of the staff barrier and took hold of Orochimaru's arms. His fingers dug in deep and he began to pull with all his might. This is for all the lives you have ruined. The ghostly form of Orochimaru's fingers appeared. You wouldn't dare dash. Orochimaru shouted, trying to wrest his soul free from Sarutobi's grip. This is for all the bloodshed you have caused. Now the snake Sunin's soul hands were detached from his body. I will not go down like this. Orochimaru thrashed, trying to escape from Sarutobi's iron grip. This is for all the hopes you have dashed. Ethereal arms joined the soul hands. I hate you. And this is for the man that you could have been. Orochimaru's soul shoulders emerged from his body. Sarutobi tugged a bit more, but nothing else would follow and his strength was already leaving him. A triumphant smirk came across Orochimaru's face. This is the second time you've failed to kill me, sensei. Maybe the third time will do the trick. Oh, that's right, you can't, because you're about to die. He cackled madly. Sarutobi matched Orochimaru's expression with a smirk of his own. That may be so, but you're not getting away scot-free. Your madness began with jutsu, and it does karma justice that I should take away your only means of using it. Phew. The Shinigami's dagger slashed downwards, severing Orochimaru's soul arms from the rest of his body. Taking the soul arms and the spirits of Sarutobi and the Senju brothers, the Shinigami was finally appeased and disappeared. Orochimaru's face contorted with shock and anger as he looked down at his hands. The skin had turned to a sickly shade of purple and hung limply in front of him. He tried moving them, but nothing happened. He let out a howl of fury as he brought down an axe kick towards dying Sarutobi, when he was caught by a strong arm. Hey Teme, remember me? Orochimaru gnashed his teeth with rage seeing that Jiraiya had caught up to him. In his anger and despair, he let out another scream. Hearing the cry, the Oto Four ceased their battle with the Umbu and wrested their master from Jiraiya, and made their retreat. The Umbu immediately gave pursuit but were caught on their feet when a six-armed Otonin spewed out a sticky web, rendering them immobile. Right. Yeah. Whispered the Hokage. The Toad Sage choked back a sob as he came across the form of his dying mentor. Sensei. Why? Why did you have to use that accursed seal? It was the only way. Sarutobi gasped. The resurrected cannot be stopped. Unless you separate their souls. That Teme. Jiraiya growled. He really has no respect for the living or the dead. When I get my hands on him, I do not call for revenge. I did it on my own will and I have fulfilled my duty. Murmured Sarutobi. And now, it is your turn. You will have to lead them through the dark days ahead. And while you are at it, please watch over Naruto. I have an inkling that the boy will surpass even his father. But you have great potential, Jiraiya. Please lead the people. For Konoha's sake. For Naruto's sake. For my sake. A pained gasp escaped from Sarutobi's lips. My time here grows short. Farewell my student. May the will of fire guide you well. As those words left his lips, Hiruzen Sarutobi finally breathed his last with a smile on his face. Deidara mentally cursed as he launched his clay bird towards the Kaguya. During the course of the entire invasion the Iwa-turned Konohanin had been using his special clay bombs to aid in the defense, so it would have been inevitable that he would eventually run out of ammo, but he wasn't expecting to run out of ammo so soon. Katsu. The clay bird exploded with such ferocity that Deidara himself was thrown several feet backwards from the shockwaves. As the blonde picked himself up from the rubble, he saw the Kaguya emerge from the dust, barely injured except for the scratches on the parts that were not covered by the bone armor. You've got to be kidding me, Deidara exclaimed. Isn't there anything that bone armor can't do? The Kaguya said nothing but merely charged at the blonde, a bone sword in hand. Thinking quickly, Deidara used his Retsu Dotensho to buy him some time to escape the Kaguya. The rock projectiles went flying towards the enemy, but the Kaguya sliced it through like butter. Deidara ground his teeth in frustration as he was quarried into a dead end. This was it, he was going to be killed, and by a guy with a purple bow, no less. As the Kaguya raised his bone sword to bring down the death strike, a familiar voice suddenly cried out, Shihukatsuaga, trans, piercing fang from 4 directions. 4 grey drills ground into the Kaguya from 4 different directions, penetrating the bone armor. As the Kaguya staggered from the blow, 2 more familiar voices called out, Doton, Shinjuzanshu no Jutsu. Within seconds, the Kaguya was holed in. The blonde bomber opened an eye to see Hana and Inyuzuka and the Himuru triplets standing before him. Behind the immobilized Kaguya were Katetsu Hagani and Izumo Kamizuki. Are you alright? Hana asked, helping up her fellow Chunin. Yeah, thanks for the save, Deidara replied. How did you guys know where I was? Oh, that, laughed Katetsu. A clay bird told us. That, and the fact that we have a tracker with us. So, what do we do with this one right here? Asked Izumo, nudging the struggling Kaguya with his foot. He's too dangerous to let live, and he seems to be absolutely loyal to Orochimaru, so there's only one thing to do. Deidara replied. Doton, do dash. But before Datara could finish the command, there was a sudden bang as the entire perimeter was engulfed in a cloud of smoke. When the air finally cleared, the Fortunin, and 3 dogs, discovered to their horror that the Kaguya had disappeared from where he was trapped. $. And carrot. Kotetsu swore for the second time that day. He's gone. Maybe we could still go after him, suggested Izumo. He turned to Hana. Can you still track him down? Hana took a whiff of the air and coughed. Negative, she replied. There's too much smoke residue in the air. I can't trace the punk's scent. Datara punched the ground in frustration. Shit, In the chaos of the invasion, 4 figures slunk through the shadows, the 4th figure propped between the 2 others. Are you all right there, Kimimaro-san? Asked Kabuto. The one called Kimimaro coughed several times before giving a slight nod. I'm fine, but I'm more concerned about Lord Orochimaru. How goes he? Not good, said Kabuto. He has lost the use of his hands, no thanks to that accursed Hiruzen Sarutobi, and things have just gone from bad to worse for our forces. It's as if Konoha had been prepared from the beginning. He turned to his teammates. You two, rally our remaining forces for a retreat. I'll take care of Kimimaro-san. Handing Kimimaro over to Kabuto, Misumi and Yoroi complied with the command. Bro, do something. Gamakaki yelped as Naruto's Kodachi bounced off Gaara with a resounding clang. What do you think I'm doing? Naruto retorted as he evaded another of Gaara's Suna Shuriken. It's not my fault his armor is like sandstone. Wait a minute. Sandstone. Sand. With enough heat and pressure, the silicon in the sand will crystallize to become glass, and glass is. Suddenly Naruto got an idea as a sly smile crept across his face. Thank you old man for that crappy D-rank at the glassmaker's shop. Hey Gamakaki, I want you to spit up as much oil as you can. How's that going to solve anything? Just do it. Gamakaki did as he was told and spewed out as much toad oil as he could. In the meantime, Naruto sheathed the Kodachi and put his hands into an often-used seal. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. 100 Naruto clones appeared and charged towards the Tanuki-fied Gaara while the original Naruto drew out his Kodachi once more and followed suit as he dragged it behind him, sparks flying as the blade scratched against the rough surface of the tree bark. Gaara let out a furious bellow as he swatted at the shadow clones that swarmed at him. Sand erupted from all sides, but the clones maneuvered through as best as they could. Several clones had dispelled as Gaara's tail swept at them, but still, the others pressed on with the assault. As soon as the clones got close enough, each of them pulled out an exploding tag and slapped it right on top of the sand armor. Gaara screamed out once more as he thrashed about, knocking the clones here and there as he tried to remove the explosive tags that now coated his sand armor. Oh no, you don't. Naruto shouted, striking the oil slick with the heated Kodachi. Katsu. The oil slick burst into flame just as the explosive tags went off. The 2 explosions combined to form one enormous fireball, turning the sand surrounding Gaara into glass. Eat this! Naruto yelled, slamming down the reverse edge of the Kodachi with full force. The brittle glass shattered into a million pieces, and fell into a crystalline rain onto the forest floor below. In conjunction with the event, the arm that had Aomaru pinned splintered as well, bringing the puppy down with it. Fortunately for Aomaru, he was caught by a makeshift net courtesy of the hood of Kiba's top, Shino's bugs, and Tenten's wire. Gaara was beside himself with rage as he found his defenses weakened and destroyed. He had one option left if he wanted to appease his mother's blood. He had to let it out. He immediately forced a sleeping jutsu upon himself, and as he slipped out of consciousness, the Shukaku immediately took control, gathering the remaining sand with the sand around the surrounding area to form a massive one-tailed raccoon dog with its host dangling from the middle of its forehead. Finally, I'm free. Chapter 37, Jinhiriki Rumble. 9 pairs of eyes looked up with fear and wonder as Shukaku combined Gaara's remaining sand and the sand from the forest floor to form a giant one-tailed tanuki rising over the canopy of trees. Temari and Kankuro were shell-shocked with fear as their worst nightmare came to life. Gaara was bad enough on his own, attacking friend and foe alike, but when possessed by Shukaku, his madness and bloodlust increased exponentially. Shino and Tenten were awestruck, having never seen such a creature, whereas Naruto, Gamakaki, Shikamaru, and Kiba were both mesmerized and fear-stricken at the same time. Beside Kiba, Akamaru whimpered as Shukaku loomed above them ominously. "What's this?" Shukaku boomed out. "Garakun brought some snacks for mother?" "Oh, such a sweet and thoughtful boy." He crushed a nearby tree as he made his way towards the Sabuku siblings and the retrieval team. The sound of breaking wood snapped everyone out of their daze. Quickly, they scampered out of the way. "Get out of here, now!" commanded Naruto. "This freak shoal destroy just about everything in its path. If you value your life, get out now." "That won't work. He'll just go after us," reasoned Temari. "I'll stall him," said Naruto. "Just go." But Shikamaru began. "Go." Putting their previous animosity aside, the Suna and Konoha genin all complied with the order and left, all except one. "Kiba? Akamaru? What are you still doing here? And where's Aomaru?" "The runt's back with Shika and the others," Kiba declared, drawing the Shiraga. "As for me and Akamaru, we're here to stand by you." "No, you're not," said the blonde. "It's too dangerous, and as an Inyuzuka, it's your duty to stay with your pack." "My pack is here with you," Kiba argued. "Kiba, just go." "No. You're my brother, and I'll be damned before I'll let you get mulched out there by the psycho sand rat. I'm guessing that nothing I'd say or do would make you change your mind." Kiba gave a feral grin. "Yep." Naruto sighed with resignation. "Fine, you can help. But be very careful. This is a biju we're dealing with." Kiba's grin widened. "10 for that, Mr. Foxy. Let's roll, Akamaru." Jujin Bunshin no Jutsu. Beiki put up his hands in surrender as he and the remaining Sunanin were surrounded by the Konoha defenders. Not so long ago, a cloaked Umbu had passed by and sounded an ocarina. Moments later, the Oto forces retreated, leaving the Suna forces at the mercy of Konoha's defenders. The invasion had been a failure. Now, Beiki could just hope that his charges were still all right. "This way," Shikamaru huffed as he leapt through the trees, turning right. "No, this way," argued Temari, pointing to the left. Shikamaru came to a halt. "This route is much shorter. We'll get back to town much faster." Temari halted as well. "Yes, but this route is safer. Your route's currently crawling with invaders. Are you sure you are not just setting us up for an ambush, considering you are one?" Tenten pointed out. "Are you calling me a liar, bunhead?" Temari challenged. Tenten's eyes narrowed at the insult. "So what if I am? What ya gonna do about it, windbag?" Temari reached for her fan. "Oh, wouldn't you want to know?" "Enough!" Shikamaru yelled, activating his Kage Hyos no Jutsu to hold down the two girls. "Shino, would you like to do the honors?" Shino nodded and brought forth a pair of bugs, each one flying towards the disputed routes. A few moments later, they returned and relayed the information to their host. "Well?" Shikamaru asked. "She's telling the truth," Shino monotoned. "Guess this is your lucky break," said the lazy Nara as he released his Kage Hyos. "Told you," Temari barked, harshly shoving Shikamaru out of the way as she led the group towards her route. Kankuro snorted and purposely bumped into Shikamaru's shoulder as he followed his sister. Shino and Tenten did not say anything, but followed as well, with Shino carrying Aomaru, and Tenten with a sour look on her face. Shikamaru grimaced as he rubbed at the spots where Temari and Kankuro shoved into him. Troublesome blondes and their brothers. Yaiba no Senpyu. Enhancing the Shiraga with Wind Chakra, Kiba lunged at the incoming Biju and repeatedly slashed at it with all his might, while Akamaru, in clone form, drilled through the sand armor with the Tsuga. But for all their effort, Shukaku pressed on with nary a dent. "Do it again," mocked the Tanuki. "It tickles." "I can't believe this," Kiba yelled. "He's actually enjoying it." Naruto mentally kicked himself. Noda. Suna is in wind country. Of course he would be somewhat immune to wind attacks. We'll have to try something else. You keep him busy, I'll take care of this. Naruto hollered back. Teijuka ga Bunshin no Jutsu. There was a great puff of smoke, and the area was immediately filled with 2,000 Naruto clones. "Same thing as last time, boys," said Naruto. "You know what to do. Gamakaki, oil please." In one fluid motion, the clones charged towards Shukaku, while Gamakaki spewed out a trail of oil towards Shukaku. But suddenly, the monster puffed up its chest and launched a massive ball of wind towards them, dispelling a third of the clones. "Just keep going," the original Naruto commanded. "You're almost there." Shukaku thrashed around madly, but there were just too many of them. Just like before, he was soon covered in explosive tags. "All right Kiba, follow my lead." "Akamaru, get out of the way," Naruto said, dragging his Kodachi along the rough bark, sparks flying once more. The other Inyuzuka gave a brisk nod and emulated his brother's actions, while his partner jumped off the danger zone. "Okay, on 3. 1. 2. 3. Katsu." At the command, the Inyuzuka brothers struck the oil trail, setting it on fire. Mixed with the explosion from the detonating tags, the ensuing fireball was bigger and more powerful. "Think we got him?" Kiba asked, shielding his eyes. "We can't say dash." But before Naruto could finish, Shukaku reared up out of the debris, screaming in rage. Despite the massive fireball, only parts of the monster's sand armor had crystallized this time. "How dare you, you mangy curs!" the tanuki howled, wildly swinging his claws and stomping on the trees. "You'll be sorry you ever messed with the Ichiba no Shukaku." "Dude, he's unstoppable," Kiba shouted, as he ran for it. "What now?" "Boss, do something," Gamakaki squealed. "Let me think, damn it," Naruto snapped, ducking the flying sand. "Everything has a weakness. We just have to figure out what it is." "Well, think faster," Kiba and Gamakaki retorted in unison. "Eureka! What is it?" Naruto pointed at Shukaku's forehead. "You see that?" Kiba, Akamaru, and Gamakaki squinted up to see the red-headed Jinchuriki dangling limply from up above. "Yeah," Kiba replied. "What about it?" "We'll have to wake him up." The Shukaku came out when Gaara fell asleep, so in theory, if we wake him up, he would regain control and Shukaku would disappear. "That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard of," Kiba scoffed. "Well then, got any bright ideas?" Gamakaki retorted. Kiba looked sheepish. "No." "Then I suggest, you shut your trap and open your ears." "You were saying, boss." "Okay, the plan is to hold Shukaku down while someone jumps up to the forehead and wakes him up. Kiba, you and Akamaru will use the Jinjuken Behenge to transform into the two-headed wolf dog and restrain Shukaku. Gamakaki, your task is to distract the monster, while I run up there and wake Gaara up. Everyone clear with it?" "Yep." "Gotcha. ARF. Okay then, break." Jinjuken Behenge, Sotaro. Kiba and Akamaru disappeared in a cloud of smoke. In their place was a massive two-headed dog who immediately clamped its teeth and claws onto the rampaging Shukaku. However, Naruto had underestimated Shukaku's size and power. As the tanuki monster thrashed about in Kiba's hold, the dog creature was slowly losing its grip. The plan was already falling apart before it even started. The blonde was beyond vexed. Kiba needed help, but with Aomaru out of commission, a second Jinjuken Behenge was out of the question. He'd have to try to get someone just as big as or even bigger than Shukaku. Biting his thumb, he channeled as much of Kyuubi's chakra as he could to summon the one creature that could solve his dilemma. Gamabunta appeared in a cloud of smoke. "What is it, Gaki?" he bellowed. "My brother needs helping in holding down that," Naruto replied, pointing at the Shukaku. "And I have to wake that." He pointed at Gaara. "Think you could help?" "I could, but it's gonna cost ya." I know. 50 barrels of sake. The bills with arrow senin." Gamabunta boomed a hearty laugh. "Still as cunning as always, eh?" "Yeah, I got guts, kid." "I like that." "Save the pleasantries for later, Boss Toad, sir," said Naruto. "We still have a crazy Biju to take down." The Toad boss took one look at Shukaku and immediately hopped into action, pushing down on the tanuki monster. However, for all Gamabunta was worth, he was still having trouble in restraining the crazed Biju. "Kid, he's struggling too much," Gamabunta yelled over the din. "Maybe you could transform me into something with teeth and claws so I can hold him down." "Like what?" Naruto asked exasperatedly. "You're a smart kid," Gamabunta retorted. "Go figure it out." Naruto glanced at the Shukaku and then back at the struggling Kiba and Gamabunta. Teeth and claws. The Toad boss needed something big with teeth and claws, and then an idea struck. "Can be henge." Gamabunta disappeared in a cloud of smoke, and in his place was a massive crimson fox with 9 tails flowing out behind it. "Now we're talking," cheered the Toad boss in his fox form. He sank his claws into Shukaku's body, making him roar in anger. "Go kid, go. Take this sucker down." Naruto nodded and jumped off the Kyuubi's nose and raced across Shukaku's arm, heading straight for Gaara. However, the Shukaku was not going to let his newfound freedom be thwarted by a pair of mortals and their canids. As Naruto dashed over Shukaku's arm, sand flared out from around him, trying to strike him. The blonde expertly dodged the sand flares as he charged straight for the target. Gaara was already in his line of sight. He just needed to get a smidge closer. "Boss, hurry!" Gamakaki screamed. "They're losing their grip." True enough, both Gamabunta and Kiba were struggling to restrain Shukaku. This was further intensified when a sand tentacle knocked the two-headed dog 20 meters away. Naruto grit his teeth and pumped more chakra into his legs. He had to wake Gaara up, as it was only a matter of time before Gamabunta let go. Soon enough, Naruto was within reach of Gaara. Cocking back his fist, the blonde threw a Kyuubi-enhanced punch at the redhead. "Rise and shine, sleeping beauty!" yelled the blonde, slamming the super punch right onto Gaara's cheek. The impact jolted Gaara back to consciousness, and as his eyes snapped open, the Shukaku began to lose control and crumbled into dust, screaming and cursing as he did so. As Shukaku disintegrated into dust and sand, Naruto and Gaara found themselves plummeting over 300 feet down towards the ground. Fortunately, Gamabunta caught the two boys before they were nothing more than a pair of stains on the forest floor. Setting them on the ground, the Toad boss duty was finally done for the day, and he and his son dispelled themselves, returning to the summon realm. Gaara's eyes widened in fear as he found himself sprawled on the ground with the blonde crawling towards him, despite the injuries he sustained during the fight. He tried to move away, but his body was too tired to respond. "No! Stay back!" he screamed. "Get away from me!" Naruto did not reply, but continued to drag himself closer, the red chakra dissipating from his aura. "I said stay away!" Gaara repeated. "You know Sabaku, it's strange," Naruto finally croaked out. "You and I we're actually very much alike, yet so different at the same time. We're both Jinhyuriki, created to protect, yet you fight to destroy. Why?" Gaara stared at the blonde for a while before replying. "Carnage and destruction is all I know. My original purpose was to be a weapon, and that is my existence. Do not take it away from me." "You know," said Naruto. "You sound like this kid I met in Nami not so long ago." He too spoke of being nothing more than a tool to his master until the man protected him from a death blow. "You know why the man did it, Sabaku?" "It was because the kid was more than just a tool. He was that man's most cherished friend. So don't think all you can do is destroy, use your powers to protect." "Protect who?" Gaara shot back. "Unlike your village, mine see me as nothing more than a monster. My siblings and sensei fear me, and even my own father wants me dead. Tell me Inyuzuka, who can I protect?" "Your siblings," Naruto whispered, suddenly feeling very tired. "Despite their fear, they actually care about you. Remember when Aomaru and I chased you into the forest? Your siblings saw us and left the main forces to go after us. They actually care enough for your well-being to aid a fellow pack member. So don't think you're alone, Sabaku. Because somewhere out there's always someone who cares." The redhead Jinhyuriki turned a teal gaze at Naruto, hoping to find more answers, but the blonde Inyuzuka was silent as exhaustion had taken over and he lay there, unconscious and unmoving. Kiba painfully picked himself up from the debris in the battlefield. He scanned the horizon for any sign of the Shukaku, but was instead greeted by a giant dust cloud, obscuring his vision. Beside him, Akamaru whimpered but did not move. "Ba! Kiba! Oi, Kiba!" yelled a familiar voice. "Shikamaru? Is that you?" Kiba gasped. It was difficult to breathe properly, as the dust and sand was choking him and Shukaku's blow had cracked a few ribs. "Yes," called out the lazy Nara. "The others are just behind me. Are you alright?" Kiba sucked in some air, but winced as a sharp pain shot out from within his chest. "A little battered, but I'll live." "Akamaru's much worse, though. The poor dude's got chakra exhaustion." He painfully struggled to his feet. "What are you guys doing back here anyway? You should have been back in town ages ago." "We saw Shukaku collapse and we ran back here as fast as we could," Shikamaru explained. "But then we came across you, but no sign of Gaara and Naruto." "Do you know where they are?" "I can't say," Kiba replied. "I can't see a damn thing through this dust, and it's hard to use the whiffer when you have cracked ribs." "Why don't you just tell Shino's bugs to scout around?" "You think I didn't try that?" grumbled Shikamaru. "He sent a few earlier, but they keep on going amok. It's like Kyubi and Shukaku's chakra signatures are messing with their tracking system or something." "I think I can help," offered Tamari, as she ran up to Kiba and Shikamaru. With a wave of her fan, she blasted away the debris cloud, hovering around the area. With their vision cleared, the Konoha and Sunanin now saw the extent of the rampage. Sand and glass littered the area, and everywhere, there were trees that had been crushed, courtesy of Shukaku. But the sight that bothered them the most was the barely conscious Gaara and the prone form of Naruto about 20 meters away. "Naruto!" Kiba cried out as he staggered towards the limp form of his brother. "He's alive," Gaara reassured them in a weak voice. "Just unconscious." Shino knelt beside his friend and checked. "Sabaku's right. Naruto's alive, but he's suffering from a severe case of chakra exhaustion. It'd be most logical if we procure medical aid as soon as possible." "And what about them?" Kiba growled, jabbing his thumb at Gaara being supported between Tamari and Kankuro. "You don't have to worry about us anymore," assured Kankuro. "On our way back to Konoha, we saw the Oto faction of the invaders being rallied for a retreat, but no sign of our fellow Sunanin. We've already failed our mission, and thus we surrender to you." Kiba gave the Suna puppet master a strange look. "You're miles away from the main force. You could have just bolted." "We could do that," said Tamari. "But my brother is in no condition to travel back to Suna. For us, his well-being is imperative, and I know that you have been known to give medical attention to injured prisoners of war. We would rather surrender peacefully rather than be the cause of another casualty of war." Gaara's eyes widened at every word Tamari spoke. His siblings were giving up their freedom just so they could receive medical help from their supposed enemy for him. "Don't think you're alone, Sabaku. Because somewhere out there, there's always someone who cares." Naruto's words rang through his thoughts. His siblings cared. There were not one, but two people who cared after all. The redhead's broken lips parted to say two words that Tamari and Kankuro would have never expected from their baby brother. "I'm sorry." That's it for part 7. Thank you for watching and see you on the next video.